Yes, there's focus on Hong Kong, there's focus on Taiwan, there's focus on what's happening to the Uyghurs and the genocide against the Muslims living there. But we cannot take our eyes off the ongoing genocide being committed against the Tibetan people.
Identifiable mechanisms like arbitrary detention, forcible transfer, rape, torture, disappearance are all tools that have been well documented throughout the course of Beijing's assimilation practices. Xi Jinping's recent appointment of Pan Yue to the Central Committee is likely an indication of this aggressive assimilation that will not only continue but surely intensify. And if the Beijing chairman's recent visit to Moscow is any indicator of a new era, every one of China's 55 ethnic groups, including Tibetans, Uyghurs, Mongolians, are right to be extremely afraid. As you were saying, we get overwhelmed by how vast this Chinese machine is. And, you know, we have to rethink in the West every couple of years what our policies are. And there's an interim period where there's discussion and there's a relaxation of movement. There's no relaxation in China. These policies were set many, many decades ago. And this 100-year program for the Chinese to take over the world, they're 50 years ahead at this point because they're on point of knowing exactly what they set out to do. The mechanisms that they have in place are everywhere now. They're in our universities, they're in our schools, they're in our police departments, they're in our, you know, the deep structures of our intelligence community. They're everywhere. And we have to look at this, but as the gentleman said, we can't get overwhelmed by how big it is. We have to be able to parse it piece by piece and look at it. And the things that mean most to us are our children, frankly. And to look at that the deepest, I think, and this question of continuity of culture from grandmother, grandfather to child is deeply important for us. Could we imagine our own kids being devoid of that kind of cultural continuity and transfer of thoughts and emotions and a sense of who we are in the universe? When I first became interested in the Tibetans, and I knew very little about the political situation, I was going to go to Tibet. And I had a friend of mine, John Avedon, who had just written a book about the history of Tibet and also the diaspora. And he said, "Why are you going to Tibet?" And I said, "Well, I want to see Tibet." I said, "Well, you'll just see Chinese there. And you see people who are so coward and fearful. You won't really have an experience there. Go to Dharamsala. See His Holiness there." So I did, and that was really the beginning of my involvement. But it was so stunning to me to see Tibetans living in exile, but within their own communities with this continuity of culture were unique. And I see it to that community that's sitting here with us today. These people are unique. They're unique on the planet. They're unique in our present society. They have so much to offer us, not just Americans, but the entire planet, of how we can proceed. This breaking of that continuity of love and compassion and wisdom is probably the saddest thing that we've seen.